You're not wearing all the hats and the business can grow without you, which ultimately means the freedom of money, time, and mental space. You should be excited about your day when you wake up. You know, if you're not excited, then we need to look at that. What is going on? What are you doing that is not bringing you the type of joy that doesn't make you excited about getting up and ready to go in the morning? Your life ebbs and flows, and so do those three things. And I think you can't be about just one of them, but at different points in your life, they're just going to do that and balance the scale differently.
All right, welcome to the Doing the Work podcast. I am super excited for this episode. I'm with Taryn Debreuil, who she just coached me how to say her last name, so I've hopefully got that right. And she is someone that I have known for a couple years now. We've worked together in a couple organizations, Two Brain Business, the Tinker program, and have just always deeply appreciated your interactions, how you show up in the world, what you do day to day, your message. And I'm just super excited to share it with my audience. So thank you for being here.
Oh, that was such a kind intro. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, I'm hyped to be here. Super excited.
Yeah. Well, you and I, I do my homework before these episodes, and you and I have so much in common. I think we have some really, in terms of experiences and also just character and like kind of who we are. But my audience doesn't quite know anything about you right now. And so, tell us just a little bit about your background and where you're coming from and what got you here.
All right. So my name is obviously Taryn Debreuil. I own a company called Perfect Day Business Mentoring. So I primarily work with small business owners to help them just build their businesses more successful and get a little bit more time back so that they can do, what they want to do in their real lives, be back for their family, hang out with their kids, do all that kind of stuff. I have been an entrepreneur for about 16 years. When I was 20, I was going to school to be an athletic therapist, or I think in the US you guys call them athletic trainers, kind of like a physiotherapist, but for athletes. And I was working out at the gym one day. It was just like a little Globo gym. Gym burns down. We're standing across the street watching this building go up in flames, my training partner and I, who also was my boss where I was doing my practicum too. And he turned around and said to me, he's like, well, if we're ever going to do this, like this is probably the right time. And I was 20, like I was about to convocate from university, and this was not anywhere on my radar. And so I was like, okay, well, sure. Yeah, let's do this. So,
at 20, you just kind of, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was older and he was a successful chiropractor in town. And so, you kind of you're influenced that way, that you have somebody who wants to mentor you through this process, and you have this opportunity to do something that is incredibly exciting and has already changed your life in millions of different ways. And so to be able to do that for other people. So the global gym in town burning down was kind of the catalyst of not just my entrepreneurial career, but just, this level of impact I would soon learn that I could throw back into the world in different various ways. And so at 20, I opened CrossFit Function, and, I bought him out after a year into that process and just kind of flailed my way through it for the first 8 to 10-ish years. And then finally figured it out at the end in the last 5-6 years, how to build a successful business. And so, yeah, that has kind of brought me here, starting to mentor other gym owners and realize that the things that we were doing in the gym to make the gym successful actually carry over into most small businesses. And so Perfect Day Business Mentorship was kind of born. I mean, it's got its own story on how it was born, but that was me trying to carry that forward, that, you can help all these people through their health and fitness, and that is amazing. And now I have this other opportunity to help people build their businesses and change their lives in that realm too. Yeah.
And I think there's just so much in there, right? Like I don't know, I guess when you own businesses, you start to associate with a lot of other business owners. And so I've talked to a lot of other people who own businesses, and the stories are often very common, right? People who have that entrepreneurial spirit, first of all, like you said, they're opportunistic. They see gaps, they see holes, they see opportunity where other people don't really see it. And I think the challenge a lot of times, like you and I have had the same exact experience. I've been in business. Really, I tell everyone, like, I was just born an entrepreneur. Like I was 9 years old, having side hustles and just like
Yep,
trying to
me
figure
too.
out what, I mean, it's just like who I am. And you really flail. Like you said, your word was flailing, and you struggle, you wrestle with it. And some people just aren't really built for that part of it, right? Like they have the intellect, they have the expertise, but the struggle that people have through owning a business, especially like a small business, you're not making a ton of money. Maybe it's just you, or maybe you and one other person. And that's why I'm so glad there's people like you. I have been so lucky to receive mentoring and coaching and guidance from other really smart, grounded, experienced people. And we need people like you out there doing what you do.
I think it's the word you're looking for in that storyline is resilience, right?
Yeah.
Like people's tolerance level towards how resilient can they be. And yeah, entrepreneurs are some of the greatest at that. And I think just how you conduct your real life, even outside of your business, sort of plays into that character role as well, right? And so now you get into that position where shit is like, excuse my language, but like shit is just not going well. And
Yes.
the thing is like you see the end game, like you see where it is that you're trying to take this thing, and it's just like, can you handle hit after hit? But like looking back, and what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn here? What is the lesson? And like trying to continuously carry that thing forward, knowing that the end game is, just outside of your reach, but you're gonna reach it. And I think that's part of what makes the game so fun. I remember earlier in my business career, and this is like super early into it, somebody asked me like why do you want to be a gym owner? And I had just said to myself, I was like, it's not actually the gym business. Like it's just the game of business that I love to play. It's like, what do I have to say to help to get this person in my door so that I can show them that I can solve their problems? What is the game I have to play? What are the things I have to say? Like, I love the game of business. And I knew that right away, which was weird because being a business owner was never on my radar. Never. My parents are very traditional, 9 to 5 union workers, you know what I mean? And so this was just not a conversation we had ever had.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think that's one of the things that you said that like really stood out to me, because this is, again, a frustrating part of business, right? You'll be doing everything right and things will be going well. You'll have figured out the game a little bit, right? And then the thing that's a little different about business than, like, I know you're an athlete, you've been an athlete, so you understand sport like basketball, right? The rules are always the same. The conditions are always the same. You have the same court, you got the same hoop, you got the same ball, but a few things change, like the team you're playing or your teammates or whatever. And so it's very similar to that, right? Where the game is always changing. And what worked for you last year and maybe got you to do really well, all of a sudden just stops working for you. And that's where that resilience and that coaching and that insight from other people, really, really comes into play. Just like, again, I love sport, so I know you do too. So the analogy is, that's why everybody needs a coach. Every coach needs a coach. Every player needs like a position coach. It's just part of the game.
I think it's like, and the coaching to be adaptable, right? Like you run the play doesn't work. Okay, cool. Let's like, you have this one play, but there's 10 different branches off of that play. Like if I pass the ball to that person over there, there's 10 different routes that other player can run to make that play still happen. And so your ability to, I call it like ebb and flex, like flex and flow with all the stuff that's happening around you, is that ultimately is going to help you determine how successful you're going to be, right? Like if you are in a one-track mind, that's going to be a hard adjustment for you. And you might not ever be able to make those adjustments. But if you toss the ball to your staff member and you know that the end goal is the ball on the hoop, how we get there is that part doesn't really matter. There's, I'm going to give you guidance on how we can do that, but you just need to follow the right route that's going to get there. And there's 10 different ways that you can do that, and that's really just their ability to adapt.
Yeah. And again, that's the thing, is like, there are certain people, I think, who really thrive in that environment, and there are certain people who really don't. Like there are some people who just say, I want to follow A, B, C, D. I want to give me a an SOP, step 1, step 2, step 3, and I want to follow that. And they're really very black and white. And when things don't necessarily go according to those steps, they really struggle. They're like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. So I think that's one piece of it. And then Dan Martell in his book, Buy Back Your Time, like there was something that his story really resonates with me. He had anyone who knows me personally knows this is true. He had a criminal background. I had a criminal background. He like the chaos in his early life really did set him up for success to be a high-level entrepreneur, because he could deal with as you called the flex and the flow, right? Shit was just chaotic all the time. You're always adjusting. You're always pivoting. And I think that there are certain people, who are set up to be good business owners. And once they can get their shit together, they can be really successful business owners. I'm curious about your perspective on that. Like, what do you think makes for a good business owner?
That's funny. As you're talking about his story, which I love his book and I love his story, and that's cool that you guys can live parallel lives in that regard. I always laugh at my upbringing because I was the younger kid of two, but I was 11 years difference between my brother and I. So my story I like to tell is I was probably a mistake child that they weren't expecting. And so, what comes along with that, like you're the younger kid, you're clawing for scraps, like you're clawing for attention. You basically have to figure things out on your own. And that's how I would put my upbringing. And that's why I find that I am successful in whatever type of, not just a leadership role, but whatever role you're going to put me in, I'm going to try and find how the puzzle pieces fit together, because no one else is going to do that for me. And I would rather create that for myself anyways. So yeah, definitely how, what your own storyline looks like, but you got to make the most of whatever position you're put in, and those that have that inclination to try and figure it out versus being told what to do. Those are probably, and I don't mean this in an offensive type of way or anything, typical Canadian, sorry, I don't mean this in an offensive way. Those are probably the people who better excel in a 9-to-5 employee type of environment, which we need those people, right? Like our businesses would not function without those types of people. So
yes,
they're equally as important as the CEOs and the business owners who have to be less hands-on and more thinking caps on, to try and push the storyline along.
Yeah, I think what you just said was so beautiful because, and I found this to be true. Again, knowing a lot of business owners, I think there are some who are kind of like naturally inclined towards it, but there's a ton of very successful business owners who have all different types of backgrounds. Yeah. And I think it really comes down to this, right? Use what you've got. Whatever life gave you, whatever your circumstances are, whatever there's like all these different contextual factors. Whatever it is, use that shit. Like, make the best of whatever you've got in front of you.
And it's interesting because I didn't know that those things were important about myself when I first started. Like I said, like I was 20. I didn't know what I was doing. I just said yes because some guy asked me and I thought he was successful and I thought I had the golden ticket in front of me, Yeah. But one of the very first things I started doing, because I was working for him, I was the front desk sort of like admin in his chiro clinic, but I was also sort of like half doing my practicum hours. So he would take his clients in for treatment and I would sit at the front desk and I would pull out entrepreneurial book after and I would just like sit there and I'm studying like, what exactly does it mean to be an entrepreneur? And like, also what benefits does that lifestyle open up? Because I also did not know that either, Yeah, you get to work for yourself and create your own schedule and like all those cliche things, but there's actually a whole other world on top of that you just don't know about if this is not something that you ever like studied or knew much about prior to. I was never exposed to it. And so I would pull these books out and I'm reading and I'm just like, basically trying to train myself to not only be an entrepreneur, but think like an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
And I always try and separate those two terms. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but I try and separate those two terms between like business owner and entrepreneur. Because I honestly think they're two different roles, right?
Yeah.
Like those people that try and like operate by the follow the SOPs. I have this one roadmap that I'm trying to follow. Business owner, for sure. Amazing. Yeah. Cool. Hope it works for you. Entrepreneur is like, that's where I would put the chaos. You know, that's
Right.
the person who's like got nothing but open runway in front of them, and they're just trying to figure out where to land the plane. Like,
Yeah.
what is the straight road here? I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned that while you were studying, there was, like what people think about owning a business. Like I, set my own schedule and kind of being my own, which I think is hilarious because I thought the same thing. I was an only child. I'm super independent, and I came out of the military. I was in the military, so the main thing I was thinking about when I really legitimately started businesses was I don't want to work for anyone else, and which is hilarious now because which you realize anyone who's probably ever said that and actually started a business realizes that you actually end up having hundreds of bosses. You actually end up working for everybody else because that's the nature of business, right?
It's the clients think they run
yeah,
your business.
yeah, service-based business, right? So anyway, but not to take away, but I think that that's what I was thinking, and you mentioned it's not just that, right? Like it's not just setting your schedule and not just kind of so what were some of the other things that you learned through your studies that helped you to be a better entrepreneur?
I wrote about this the other day, but honestly, it was like Robert Kiyoski's book was the thing I think that really opened my mind of what it meant to be an entrepreneur. That just, the business is not the end game. It's just a vehicle, and it's a vehicle to all of these other things. And I think that changed my perspective of the business was the last thing, right? Like this is what you do. This is who you are. This is I start this gym. I'm going to own this gym for as long as I can coach, as long as I can do this, it's just going to be my thing and who I am. But it actually moved it into the middle of the storyline as it's just the vehicle to all of these other things that a business can enable to create. Right. And I'm not to say that a normal career path as an employee can't create those things also, because absolutely there's lots of people who have done, the other branches of that, but having having the freedom of what happens in your business and what you do with that success was just, and more so maybe the control over it was the thing that I was like, that's what I want. And that's why I'm doing this. As opposed to, I just don't want to work for someone else, right? That, I feel like that's a one-track mind. All you've done is just told yourself you don't want to work for someone else, as opposed to I want this business because I want to be in control of what happens, right? That's different.
Well, and I think what I think I'm hearing in what you're saying is, and what I talk to, this is what I spend a lot of time. I mean, I feel like this is part of who I am and why I'm here is purpose. The word I always use is purpose, right? Is I'm here in this life and in this existence, and I have to believe that if nothing else, if I've got to be here, I want it to mean something, right? And I think that as a business owner, what you get is the opportunity, if you're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You go from your basic needs getting met, like paying your bills and feeding and having a shelter over your head, and going all the way to the top of that pyramid of self-actualization. And business gives you that opportunity to have purpose and to be in control of fully expressing yourself and how you want to show up in the world and how you want to be useful to other people. And no one else not as many other people get to get their fingers in that.
It gave me a platform.
Yes.
And that was incredibly rewarding for me. And it wasn't anything that I ever could have seen coming. And it actually took me a few years of having that platform to look back and be like, oh yeah, I have this platform. Look at what this has enabled me to do. And I think once I realized that, that's when I really started to, I don't want to say take things seriously, but I was no longer taking things lightly, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Part of it was my CrossFit career as an athlete and how I was building that and, the storyline I was building along with that. But the gym became this amazing platform to show people that it's not health and fitness, change your life, extend your longevity. We know all those amazing things, but it's the people that would come in and be like, I just got pregnant and they told me that was just never possible for me. Or I got a raise at my job, or I had the courage to like ask this guy out on a date, like all of that extra stuff just because of these people come and work out in your gym, you know?
Yeah.
And that platform has like, it's still there. It just looks a little bit differently now, right? Like the business owners come in and they work with me, and it's relatively the same type of things, but they're doing it through their business this time. And I don't know about you, but like that, when I wake up and I'm here and I'm going to start a group call with my mentees, like I have a little sticky note right here. It's on the bottom of my monitor, and it says, make them 1% better today. That's always been my motto, is how can I pour back into this world to make the people sitting in front of me 1% better? Because we know it compounds over time. So if I can have just even that little smidge of impact today to make you 1% better, then I've fulfilled my purpose for that day. Right. So man, I ride that wave with you, like for sure. Purpose is, you know, and I mean, I always say this too, purpose is amazing, and it's important that we have that, but that's why it almost is even more important to grow your business, to put a successful business out there, because you wouldn't have that platform without it. You wouldn't be able to live that purpose, to do those things, if you didn't have this successful foundation underneath you. And, you know, us service business owners, like we hop in there and we're technicians of our craft, and we love to just tinkle and like tinker and whatever, and like just put as much work into our clients as we can. And we forget about the business, but the business is the thing that enables you to do that. So
yeah, I 100%. And it's that dance all the time, right? Like, because you can feel really fulfilled about the work you're doing and feel like you've got all this purpose and all these touchy-feely good feelings, which I love. I thrive on that. You know, I'm that guy, you know, but no money, no mission, right? Yeah. If you aren't running a successful, well-oiled machine of a business that is thriving and runs itself without you being the linchpin and all those other things, then you're going to lose that purpose. All that touchy feeling good stuff that you get out of getting to fully express your purpose is going to go away if you're not kind of working on the business and working in the business to make it thrive, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's just like, we're scared to talk about money, or we're scared to admit maybe the position that we're in. You know, there's multiple factors why people might not necessarily ask for help and just try and dig their heels in and fight through it. I mean, that was me, but it was an ego thing for me. I was like, I'll just figure this out on my own. It took me 8 years to not figure it out until I could ask for help. Right. But I just think back, and if I wouldn't have taken control of my business, none of this would have ever happened. And that sucks. You know, it sucks to think about this. I've had incredible opportunities to just for such reward fulfilling type of experiences and to help people, and man, that is fuel. Yeah.
I was talking to a small business owner the other day, and she was like, I hate this. I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. I feel trapped. You know, if I could just walk away from it right now, I would, but you know, there's all these like expenses and like investments and all these things that like you couldn't just like throw a match on it and walk away. And you know, that was a really hard thing for me to hear, because I have actually, there have been many times in my business where I was like, you know, maybe I shouldn't be doing, you know, I mean, I've always questioned, and there's been times when I've just wanted to pour gasoline on it and walk away for sure. But it was never a really long-standing feeling. Like it was just kind of like a pity party moment.
We call them $13 days.
Yes. Yeah. Actually,
the business and offered you $13, and you'd be like, all right, it's yours.
Take it. Sold. Yeah. But you know, I'm sure that you encounter people maybe at that stage of their business, and I'm kind of curious how you approach that situation.
Honestly, it's just like, first, let's take 5 minutes just to where you can just sit in your feelings and like acknowledge them, right? Because, and I'll be the first person to say I'm not a feelings person. So the last thing I want to talk about is how sad this makes you feel, or, you know, the touchy-feely stuff. But I'll give you that 5 minutes because I think it's important to just have a safe place to say, this sucks. I hate what's going on. This is not what I anticipated it was ever going to be like. And just being able just to voice that, because the alternative is it sits inside and that just brews and brews and brews. And that does not lead you to anything productive, right? So
Right.
Cool. 5 minutes, take it. But then it's like, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. Like, what are the bottlenecks right now? Where do you feel stuck? Like, what is just not working? Let's just like barf that all out. Let's just make a list so that you can just have another 5 minutes to just spew all of the stuff that you think is not working well or going right or whatever it might be. But my job as your mentor is to show you the bigger picture, to at least have that bigger picture perspective, that the stuff you're feeling right now it's just in this moment, right? And if everything is fixable, it is. There's a solution to everything. We just need to figure out what that map is. So cool. We know what the end game is for you, or what it is that you're trying to use this business to do. Let's start working backwards, and then we'll just divide that big chunk of stuff up into little chunks. And then we just take one little chunk at a time, right? And try and get a small win right off the start, another small win on top of that, and just start compounding those wins. And that is going to help us like get through this crap period of time that you are stuck in, you know. But the thing that is most valuable to that owner in that moment is having somebody like myself or another business mentor of some sort, of just having that bigger picture perspective, you know. Hey,
Yes.
I get it. I know exactly how you feel. Been there, walked those shoes myself. But let me show you how I got out of that. Here's what you do next. And that's the value of having that bigger picture perspective in front of you. And you don't have that, you know, when
100%.
you're stuck in the mud and you're spinning your tires, it's hard to think anywhere past the moment that is right in front of you, you know? So
Yeah.
to have somebody just look at your situation and be objective about it and not have feelings about it, not feel the $13 day that you're feeling, is incredibly valuable. So valuable.
You said something at the very beginning of the conversation, which I think is really applicable to what we're saying right now, is that I think so many people quit and give up right before things like really blow up for them, you know. And I've seen it time and time again. And of course, we don't always know how that story ends, but I've also seen a lot of people who were at their darkest, hardest times, and then like literally they just one little tweak, one little switch, and then it was like everything blew up for them. Like everything amazing happened for them, you know, and that's totally possible because I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, I think now I'm going to put an asterisk on that comment, because I think there is a time and place where an objective perspective to look back on the scenario, that it like, is it worth the time, energy, attention, and perhaps money that it might take to pull you through? And sometimes that answer is no. And
Yeah.
you know, you as the business owner, especially if this is your first business, you're going to be emotionally attached. Like, how many times have you heard somebody say that my business is my baby? Right?
Yeah.
And I was guilty of it, completely guilty of it. But
Totally.
You're now emotionally tied to that thing. And so you're maybe not in the best position to look at it and say, you know what, actually, like the ROI on money, time, energy, attention, and like emotional turbulence is maybe not worth it. Right? But like, I would say 9.9 out of 10 times, it definitely does fall that it is just a small tweak and you're just too consumed by what's going on to actually see or know that it is just that you might need to refine, you know?
Yeah.
You never want to look back on that moment and be like, oh, I wish I would have, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. So
Yeah. And I think one thing you said that was really true for me, and once I finally started to thrive in my business and didn't feel trapped in it, was that identity piece, right?
Yeah.
Like when my whole identity and all my ego and everything else was like wrapped up in my business, I was miserable. I was depressed. I was like having a really hard time with it. But once I realized like, oh, this is just like one thing that I do, and this is what I like to do, and this is what I get to do, but it's not who I am, and whatever happens with this business isn't going to really you know, in the grand scheme of who I am, it's not going to make that big of a difference. That changed everything for me, you know, from just like needing to feel really important and needing to feel like you know, and just getting to pull out of it and be like, no, this is how I express my purpose, and I don't need to make it more than that, because then it gives you, then you don't feel trapped anymore. Then you feel like I have all these options. This isn't it for me.
Yeah. So 2 points just on that. I think earlier my conversation about shifting the business's purpose to it just being a vehicle, right?
Yes.
To all of these other things. Like arguably I did not learn that about my gym just until last year. Like I knew that, but again, like spotlight factor, I live in a very small town. Like as much as I tried to remove myself from that picture, just by natural occurrence and proximity, it puts me at the spotlight. And that was very, very hard to separate the personality piece of it, right? Like, but the understanding that it's just a vehicle, I think that's step one. And then step two is just that vehicle has other opportunities. And at the end of the day, that vehicle is just an exchange of services for money. It is a transactional thing. And again, you're so emotionally, subjectively caught in it. It's hard to sometimes separate that and just understand that it is just an exchange of money for services. Like this, all of these relationships that exist within your business are transactional. Like they are.
Right.
And
right.
It's sometimes it's hard to hear that. But it is the truth, because when that no longer exists, that's when you truly learn that, oh yeah, like everything was just transactional. That's all it was.
Yeah. And I think that's been one of the areas that I've really struggled with, because another part of who you know, again, one thing that's been a long-standing part of like my character is community building. You know, building a group of like supportive, a network of like supportive and mutually supportive people in your life. And the types of businesses that I've always run were like that. And so it really is hard to think about it being just transactional. And sometimes they don't see it that way either. No. You know, your client doesn't see it that way either. And that's a really hard aspect of the business. But at the end of the day, like, I think what makes a really good friend and a really supportive person in your life is to just be honest, right? And like the truth is that if you closed your gym, I probably wouldn't come, you know what I mean? Like we may not hang out as much or anything anymore. And I think people don't want to admit that all the time, but that's really the truth of it, you know?
And I mean, that's exactly what happened. So like I closed my gym earlier this year.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into that a little bit, but yeah.
We absolutely. So I closed it earlier this year, not because it was doing bad or anything, but because Perfect Day Business Mentorship was kind of the direction I was going, and it was growing way too fast that I could be a CEO of multiple companies and run them all efficiently. That was the reason. And so when I say this, that your business is transactional, that is experience. That is being right there and living through that and understand and like learning to understand that part sucks. But the only way you can understand that is by like going through it. I truly think that, because I completely relate with you that everything you've done to build the community surrounding it, but it's proximity. Like we all go to this one place, we all do the same things. So by nature, you know, our friendships and our relationships are going to build. But when that center nucleus thing is not there anymore, it merely shows that it was transactional, which it is what it is, right? Like,
yeah. And, you know, not to get too philosophical on here, you've already admitted that you're not super touchy feely, so I won't like make you uncomfortable here, but, you know, and that's just life in general, right? The truth of the matter is that, like nothing is personal. We want to believe that there's like, you know, but the truth of the matter is that everyone's just thinking about themselves in almost every interaction that you have. And business is no different. And I guess the only reason why I'm highlighting that in this conversation is you can be empowered by that bit of knowledge in your business. When you realize it's not personal, this is transactional. I need money for my mission. And yes, this is how I feel good about my life. This is what helps me to feel good about everything. You can kind of take a step back and do what you need to do for the business to you know, get everything else you need out of it.
Yeah, I think I like that's going to help you make better decisions. You know, just even
Right.
simple things like your client wants to cancel. You're going to handle that conversation a lot differently than if you were caught up in, oh man, this person has come here for 8 years and they're talking about loyalty and this and that. And like now they want to quit. I was just hanging out with them last weekend. Like, what happened? Why do they, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
definitely going to make you make better decisions, which at the end of the day, I have this saying, at the end of the day, it's you and only you. As in like everything that you do, like we say the things that we do is for our family and like all of that. But like at the end of the day, it's just you. And so you
Right.
have to make sure that the decisions you make are putting your scenario in the best possible place. And so that's part of it is just, okay, cool. Let me remove my emotions from this situation. What does the business need? Because the business is my vehicle for these other things that I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So this kind of leads me to a question. I've been, again, because I knew this about you. You closed your business somewhat recently, but I know you work with other business owners and you've been around lots of like gym owners and other business owners. When is the right time to sell your business? When is the right time to either walk away? You know, I know a lot of people who just literally closed their doors, didn't sell it. And I know other people who have sold their businesses. And I'm just wondering, what's your perspective on when is the right time for that?
So I think context is really important because one of the most immediate questions I got was I just like you said, I hate my business. I hate what I've created. I hate the staff issues I have, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to close my business. How do I do it? Because you just did it, so I want to do it. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, just put the brakes on, okay? Context is important. And so I'm really glad that you asked me that question because it sets it up. So here's what I mean by that. The business is your golden goose, right? Like it's the thing that pays your bills, gives you an income, maybe I hope gives you passive income so that you can use that money to go and invest in other things that will create more passive income or have other opportunities that are producing income. So all in all to say is that the business is your golden goose. And if you don't have anything outside of that golden goose, then that does not make sense to just close or sell because something just is not aligning in the way that you want, right? Usually what happens is we get to this point and you look at your business and you're like, this isn't working. I hate what I've created. So the easier option is just to close instead of trying to acquire the skills that you're lacking for whatever situation has occurred, right? Like 9 times out of 10 at that point, the friction point is you haven't obtained the leadership skills. And so you might fight and interact with your staff terribly, and you might not be able to retain staff. And so if you're trying to remove yourself from your business, you actually can't because you're having staffing issues. So the easier thing to do is just stop the business or sell it instead of learn how to be the leader that your business needs. So
That's way too uncomfortable. You want me to grow and learn something new?
And so what I'm meaning to say is that for most people, if they just stopped, had objective help from the outside to say, all right, here's what you need to learn and do to help you get past this troubling point, and then the business will continue to soar in the way that it has, right? Now, if you do have, like, if it's your golden goose, but it has given you the opportunity to invest in other things, to have other sources of income, to have other opportunities that are maybe, and I use this term loosely, but better than what it is that you have in front of you, then that's when I would probably look at the option of, like, if truly moving on is something that you've come to the decision of, that's when I would do it. But
right.
The questions from the people that I were getting, they were just not set up with anything else other than the golden goose. And so if you take the golden goose out of the equation, like you're starting a business from zero with no income, like why? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I've always felt about it, right? And even people who don't own businesses, like say they don't like their job. They work for other people, don't like their job. I always say, don't quit your job.
Yeah.
take the time and the security of what you've got right now to build something that is going to be better for you. So the best time to look for another job is when you have a job, and you can level up, right? You don't want to be in this situation where you're going to take anything that the first thing smoking towards you because you're in this desperate crisis situation. And it's the same thing with your business, right? Like if you don't love your business, the best thing you can possibly do is to get it to the highest level possible. Learn, like you said, learn the skills, learn the abilities, so that you can then go. You have a much better platform to jump up to the next level up, or just to something different that you feel like is a better fit for you. Like don't just throw a match on the thing.
Usually, you think the steps are too big. Right? Like you're looking at this incredible steep mountain in front of you, but actually it's just a series of successive little steps. I think one of the most common things I hear is that like, I hate what I've created. Like I hate the way the business is now running itself. And it's like, maybe it's just, we need a switch of a model. We just need to switch the model. Cool. Well, we're not just going to upheave everything and just launch a brand new version of your business tomorrow, but we can make those small successive steps towards making it more of what you want it to be, and that was part of it too, is like, I had run that business for 15 years, and what it was in the beginning and what it was when I chose to close it looked very different. And that's fine. That's what the business needed, but it wasn't serving me in the way that I needed it to serve me for what I wanted my future to look like, So.
Right. Yeah. And I think, that's like one thing that you said a minute ago is like really important too. Like if I hate my business, most of the time it's like one or two things, right? Like, and it's like, we don't really want to have the courageous confrontation of that particular issue. Yep. Maybe it's a staff person, maybe it's one of your clients, maybe it, there's like, and it's like, a lot of times things can get a lot better for you or like you said, maybe my model, there's something about my business model that I really, that's just driving me crazy. I think like taking that head on and just addressing that piece can make a major difference in how you feel and the money you make and everything else in that business, Yeah,
which just comes back to our conversation on resilience, right? Like, and adaptability. Like, cool, your business can look like whatever you want it to look like. And just because you've spent the last 5-6 years building it to look a certain way doesn't mean that we can't pivot.
So on your website, it talks about going from a good day to a great day to a perfect day. And I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about your perspective on that. What's a good day, what's a great day, and then what's a perfect day for how you coach people?
So the idea is that the type of people that we work best with are those small business owners who are kind of stuck in that $8,000 to $10,000 a month range and just can't seem to break through that. So when we talk about getting to a good day is where you can walk into your business and, you might have some consistent cash flow, or you have better idea of where the money is coming from. And more importantly, that there is money coming, right? So the first step is to break through that $10,000 just to get you past that. And part of there's 3 main systems we work on: marketing, sales, and team, in order to do that. So that good day comes from building your marketing system. It's just knowing that there is a consistent cash flow and a way to produce that cash. Okay.
Yeah.
When we move into our great day, it's like, okay, cool. There's money coming in. It's predictable. It's stable. I have a sales system that I can depend on, which means I now have money in the business that I can use as leverage. And so that leverage is often used to buy yourself time, right? As the CEO, it's looking back on, all right, my hands aren't best in the business. I'm better serving putting my thinking cap on and thinking, because that is the best role that a CEO can do, right? So we use that leverage to buy yourself time to put you in better positions. And that's where hiring that team comes in at the end. And once we have all 3 of those systems, sort of the foundations built, your marketing system feeding into your sales system, feeding into your rockstar team, then we know that consistent cash flow, you're not wearing all the hats, and the business can grow without you, which ultimately means the freedom of money, time, and mental space. And when we have the harmony of those 3 things, that's what I call your perfect day, or at least it's beginning to allow you to start crafting that perfect day. And that perfect day is going to look different for everybody, whatever that might be. But the main premise is that you have choice. and you have the ability to make a choice in how that day looks. And you can't do that if you don't have the harmony of those three systems feeding into those three freedoms. So that's how the good day, great day, perfect day sort of system flow works. That's how we move through that.
Yeah. So I'm curious about what would a perfect day look for you? You know, I know perfect days look.
95%
Tell me about it.
I live it. And I look back on my 20-year-old self and I just commend myself for, again, like pushing through everything and playing the game and learning everything I had to, because I want more people to wake up every morning and feel the way I do, the level of excitement I have about how my day is laid out and the things that I get to do. So my perfect day, when I first did this exercise, now for anybody that's listening that doesn't know what the perfect day exercise, it's pretty straightforward. It's like a series of promptive questions. The idea is go sit somewhere where you can just think, not be interrupted, and really just truly like focus on yourself and what you want. And start working through, what time do you want to wake up? Like, where are you living? What are you doing first thing when your feet touch the floor, when you swing your legs out of bed? Like, what's the first series of events? What time do you start work? What do you do for work? How long do you work? You know what I mean? Like, just starting to map that all out. And the very first time that I'd done this was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And I drew my picture not surrounded, but like on the dependency of Arizona. So I'm Canadian. The winters here are absolutely atrocious. I hate winter. And Arizona seems like the best logical place to just have summer all of the time. So I drew my perfect day picture around I was living in Arizona and the freedom to just wake up, hang out with my dogs, my husband. We would go hiking. I would come back. I would spend 2 hours doing some work 2 or 3 times a day. What that work looked like at the time I had labeled it, I still have the first copy of this, but it was some remote work. And I just put quotations around it because I didn't necessarily know that the gym was going to be the thing that I would still be doing at that point. And then it was, hang around the pool because it's Arizona. What else are you going to do? And things like that. Like I even mapped out like what kind of chair I was sitting on, drinking a cup of coffee, and like when in my day, because little details like that are important. I didn't know that at the time, but they are truly important. And so part of that exercise sets you up to make all of the correct decisions along the way to build the likelihood that perfect day comes true, right? And the idea is that it's just a template. It's just a place for you to pour out the things that you truly want in your life. And that perfect day is going to look different through the different phases of your business. Absolutely. Like mine changed several times. It always involved Arizona in some way, but how I got there looked different. And so, this led to things like, okay, cool. The business is a vehicle. It provides me this cash. Here's what I did with this cash. Well, I bought a bunch of Airbnbs. Now we have property in Arizona, which now gives me a place to go to. And next thing I know, like the series of events are falling into place for what I imagine my perfect day looking like. And so what I mean by it, I just want more people to experience the way that I feel when I swing my legs over the bed is like, hey, you should be excited about your day when you wake up. If you're not excited, then we need to look at that. Like what is going on? What are you doing that is not bringing you the type of joy that doesn't make you excited about getting up and ready to go in the morning, And then do you want the slow start, the fast start? What kind of start do you need in your morning? I love getting out of bed, grabbing my cup of coffee. I walk into my office here, I take a sip, and the very first thing I do is I start writing. And that is just like, even just like talking about it just makes me feel like I love that part of my day. That is my favorite part of my day, is the first like 90 minutes of my day where I work on my business. And so I do that 2 or 3 times a week, 90 minutes a day. Like that's it, of things that actually grow my business. I work out. I spend some time with my dogs. I give my time and attention to my clients. So that's where I might do some meetings or run some group calls. And then I'm done work at like 2, 3 every day, because that's the time I hang out with the dogs. My husband gets home, and then it's about investing time and energy, attention into those around me that mean to me, right? Like my family. So The only thing that makes the 5% when I say that I am 95% living my day every day is, we're waiting to make the official move to Arizona for the winters for 6 months in a row. And that's just my husband, and his business needs to catch up and put him in a position where he can do that. And that's cool. I have the choice where I could get up tomorrow and leave and never come back for 6 months. And that to me is sort of the green check mark on perfect day achieved. Right?
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think that the activity, I've gone through the perfect day activity multiple times. And I think it's such a important, activity for people to do, because if you don't know what the end goal is, if you don't know what you're working towards, if you don't know if you haven't clearly defined what sets you on fire and helps you to live a life that's like more on fire than not, then you don't really know how to get there. You won't know what direction to start walking, and how to start tweaking things. A lot of people, when they do
that, they don't actually even know, right? Like they'll sit down and they'll be like, what? Like,
yeah.
What do you mean? What?
It's so hard for some people.
Like, I'm going to work 9 to 5 because like, that's all I know. That's the only context I have. Cool. Write it down. It won't look like that in 3 to 5 years, I promise, but it's just a starting point. Yeah. And I was going to say, like, I have a little handout on that. Like, if people want to hop over to my Instagram, Perfect Day Biz with a Z, Biz Mentorship, and just DM me Perfect Day and I'll send you that. And then you can work yourself through all those questions and just look at what that means to you. Because you said, that's a very valuable exercise, even if you don't have the answers right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as at the end of the show, always, I like to do a little kind of activity with who's ever on the show. My show is, so again, what I feel like my purpose in life really is being a guide, a coach, a mentor for other people and the same thing. It's like, I don't care. It's not what I want. It's like, I want you to live the life that you want. And I feel like the foundation of that really is, and you talked about this a couple of times during the show, is you have to have the optimal health for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And that doesn't mean the pinnacle of like human performance. That's a complete different thing, but optimized health. I do believe in meaningful community and then like self-actualization, being like fully self-led, fully expressed, and, fully, working towards what helps you to feel like you're your best self, right? So of those 3 areas, optimal health, meaningful community, and self-actualization, which one resonates the most with you?
Oh, I can't pick one. Do I have to pick one?
You don't have to pick one. We're just like, what do you think about those things?
I feel like they are a harmony, and that at different points in your life, you will shift your focus to each one of those, right? At some point in your life, health is going to be the most important thing to you. And that's cool. That means you'll wake up every day and 6 a.m. you get your workout in before you do anything else. Maybe it doesn't look exactly like that, but the priority is there. And there might be other times in your life where pouring into your relationships is far more important than anything else that you do. Cool. Amazing. Like, put your energy and effort and attention there. And there's going to be other times where you just have to build who you are and your character and what it is that your purpose and what maybe the hard times that you're going through require you to sort that out and learn more about why you're in that situation and how to get out of it. Maybe that's like talking to a mental coach or something like that. Your life ebbs and flows, and so do those 3 things. And I think you can't be about just one of them, but at different points in your life, they're just going to do that and and balance the scale differently. And that is completely okay, as long as you incorporate those 3 things. Like, you're 99% ahead of most people, I would say.
Yeah, that is said so beautifully too, and that's really been my thought always, is if you go too hard on any one thing, right, any one particular focus, it means that you're abandoning some other things, right, and it creates an imbalance in life. So you know this to be true, and maybe you experienced this personally. We didn't dive into this, but maybe we'll. But like, I know a lot of super fit, elite athletes who are the most unhealthy people I've ever met in my entire life, and not really successful in much else, and
goes every way. Successful business owners who are unhealthy as heck, who might even own like health related businesses, and you look at their own slate of health and it is terrible. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that you kind of talked about the symbiotic relationship between all those other things. So thank you for sharing that. Well, as we bring the show to a close, will you please tell everyone, I mean, you are absolutely somebody that people would want to find and learn from and grow with. So how can people find you?
Honestly, I do most of my work on Facebook. And so if they just want to find me personally, just follow me, add me as a friend. Cool. Let's chat. Just look me up, Taryn Debreuil. I'm on Facebook. I run a free Facebook group called the CEO Clubhouse. And so in there is where I'm dropping all my main resources to help people, just if I can contribute something that moves your business along that day, then like I said, I've done my purpose of helping you get 1% better that day. So just look up the group, the CEO Clubhouse on Facebook, just request in, I'll pop you in. No big deal. The more the merrier. And then aside from that, we do run a mentorship group called the CEO Clubhouse. And that's where we're working with these $8,000 to $10,000 a month people who are stuck in that rut. And the whole goal of that CEO Clubhouse program is to try and help them find that 30K mark consistently, as that will bring the freedom of money, time, and mental space back into their business so that we can get them moving towards their perfect day. So if you find me on Facebook, just send me a DM, Clubhouse, and I'll tell you more all about what that program looks like and see if it's a good fit for you, because we love to help in all ways that we can.
Well, you get a huge plug from me. Again, I've been lucky enough to witness your leadership, your coaching, your mentorship, and it's been inspiring. And I think that, anyone who owns a business would absolutely gain benefit from it. So I hope some people reach out to you. So
awesome. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. You had some beautiful insights. I know that people got a lot out of it, and I appreciate you so much.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, have a good one.